Wrestling is fun, hip-hop music is great, depending on who you ask. What would happen if you combined the two? You get hip-hop wrestling, a game featuring iconic rappers and relates to hip-hop culture. That game is Def Jam. Def Jam Recordings is a record label owned by Universal Music Group. They have been around since the late 90s. Some of the most iconic artists have been managed by them: DMX, Ludacris, Method Man, Redman, Joe Budden, and many more. AA had partnered with Def Jam Recordings to develop Def Jam Vendetta. Vendetta was developed by AKI Corporation, who renamed to Sophia Inc. They're the same team who developed the game WWF No Mercy, one of the most iconic wrestling games to touch the face of the earth. Vendetta would play similar to this game. It used a mostly unmodified AKI engine. This engine was used in the virtual pro wrestling titles, making Vendetta essentially an official wrestling game. Similar to other wrestling games, the player can win either by pinning or submission. A third way to win is via KO. This, in my experience, was the primary way of winning fights in this game. Pinning is reliable. It could take a while to take foes down. Submissions are the longest to secure a win. The head, body, legs, and arms put in holds to weaken the person. As for KOs, when the player builds up the power gauge, they enter a mode called Blazing. Essentially, it lets you pull off a finisher. When the finisher is performed when in a danger state, it KOs the person. Blazing state also speeds up the character and immediately makes them get up after being knocked down. The HUD for players includes 2 bars: the power gauge and the health gauge. As the player performs moves and deals damage, power gauge will increase. When you take damage, the health gauge will deplete. As more damage is inflicted, the health will permanently lower. The HUD will also include a clock. Very simple HUD, and it's easy to track everything. When you're playing multiplayer and having multiple people on the screen, it can be a bit harder to keep track of what's going on, assuming you're playing a tag battle with you and the computer. Def Jam Vendetta was released on April 1st, 2003 for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. The game was directed by Hideyuki Iwashita and produced by Josh Holmes. The game's writer was Mark Sawyers. Def Jam Vendetta includes a handful of game modes. We have story mode, which will be where the player spends a lot of time, versus mode, which depending on who you are, you will spend a lot of time here, and then survival mode. For completionists, this is going to be absolutely the longest mode, as you would use this to grind up money, and then that money can then be used on characters in story to max them up very fast. Def Jam Vendetta has a section where it teaches the player how to play the game. It shows each of the moves and abilities via video. While it gets the job done, I don't think it's the best. We see this in later games. The game also has a gallery. With the gallery are 5 unique girls the player will encounter in the story. These photos are earned via the story, and you can purchase the photos. Def Jam Vendetta roster consists of 46 playable characters. In the Japanese version, there are 2 exclusive characters. I didn't play the Japanese version, but I figured I would mention this. Of the 46 playable characters on the roster, 14 characters are based on rappers well known during the game's release. The remaining characters are original characters, 4 of which are playable characters you can use for the story. These 4 characters are silent MCs. It's worth mentioning that years ago, there was also a rumor that Def Jam would bring back the series, remaster it, remake it. Nothing came out of it. Heck, I remember they were begging people to follow their page, and once they got to 1 million, they would make an announcement, and nothing came out of it. Maybe they still have plans on making Vendetta or a remake of the series. Until we see that trailer drop, I don't believe it. I played Vendetta roughly 20 years ago, and I got inspired to replay this game after I saw a friend live streaming this on Twitch, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and replay this game. I also wanted to see if I would enjoy this game in the same way as I did back then. So let's dive into the game's story. From there, we'll talk about the game, its modes, and extra tidbits.
You prove your worth as a street fighter or hustler. We don't fight out in the streets no more. We're organized now. We too gangster for the garden, so we've taken it underground. Inside, I'm a businessman, and this is my business. My soldiers are Legion, Method Man, Nori, Capone, Luda, Redman, DMX. You want a shot at me, you gotta make it past these brothers. It's a dangerous world out here. Seems every time I turn around, there's another young buck wants to take me on. I lay down for no man. You want to take what's mine, you gotta beat me. But nobody ever beats me.
There are 4 original characters you can play as in the story. Before the plot begins, you choose one of the 4 characters. When you first start up the story, you also have the option of setting up a profile, which means in theory, you can play the story an infinite amount of times with these 4 characters as long as you create a new profile. These 4 characters are silent protagonists. They don't talk, they have grunt noises and stuff, but they don't have voice lines. The 4 characters are as followed: Briggs, a dishonorably discharged soldier; Proof, an ex-superbike racer; Tank, a massive Japanese fighter; and DJ Spider. The backstory and profession for these 4 does not impact the story at all. There's little to no reason to replay the story, but there are a few reasons as to why you would want to replay the story, and I'll touch on those. These 4 characters will be also available to play on the roster. Their stats can be increased during the story with money you earn. Some might play the story 4 times with these 4 different characters to max out your stats. Stats are broken up into different areas. Each character has power, speed, grapple, defense, stamina, and charisma stats. These all affect the way the fight goes, and your starting character will have different types of stats. If you plan on playing the story once, then you likely would choose the character who has the best stats depending on your playstyle. In my experience, I think some of the most important stats would be power, charisma, defense, stamina. While grapple would be good, it gets to a point later in the game in the story where they're just reversing everything you do, and it's not like you're going to be spending a lot of time running away from the opponent. Let's get on to the story now.
What are you doing here?
Whoa, 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 it's okay, it's okay. He's going in for me tonight. Man, I knew you wouldn't let me down. Not after everything we've been through together, right? I know, my life's a disaster, so sue me. All right, this is it. Now just remember, you lose, I'm taking a dirt nap.
The player is contacted by Manny, who's friends with the player. He got hurt and needs the player to fill in for him. Manny and the player go back. How far? It's not stated. The two have a friendship and the player is willing to bail him out. Manny is voiced by Dion Luther. Manny has debt he must pay and tells the player if he loses, he's going to be dead. The game will have 3 difficulty settings you can choose from: easy, medium, and hard. I went in going at medium. In the first fight, the player fights against Pee-wee. It took some time to familiarize myself with the controls. As I remembered how to play, I recall a strategy I would employ to get fast wins in the early parts of the story. In essence, I use submissions to take advantage of lowering their health, and then as the power gauge built up, when they finally get into the danger zone, I would at least blazon and KO the enemy. Each fight is graded based on the score. There's certain things that the characters can do in the fight. This earns the player a certain score, and this gets translated into cash. The story is also how all the fighters are unlocked. So if you're somebody who is trying to just play this game casually, you still have to play the story to get the fighters. The player will also have to fight 2 more fighters, Drake and Scarface. And don't get confused with Drake here. This game came out before Drake came onto the scene. These fights aren't actually difficult, and they mostly serve to familiarize the player with the game. After the fight, the player is greeted by a girl. Deja is one of the 5 girls the player can date. While nothing super in depth, they do have pictures that you can earn. You can fight the girls with others later, and they're also playable outside of the story. As Manny and Deja congratulate the player, a girl walks past, mean mugging the player.
Oh, where are you going? You don't want to get mixed up with that again. Look, here's the story. Angel is with D-Mob now. The end. Now let's bounce.
Angel is voiced by Christina Milian, and she's dating the main antagonist, D-Mob. D-Mob is voiced by Christopher Judge. If that name sounds familiar, Christopher Judge is the same voice actor as Kratos in the 2018 rendition of God of War. There's a competition, and these first fights, not really qualifiers, but more like an underground organization. Instead of solving your issues in the streets, they're more organized and they do their fights in the ring. Throughout the city of New York, you can fight people, whether it's for competition to make money or if you need to settle the score. Later in the story, there is a tournament called Def Jam, and that's where the tournament kind of comes into play. So really, these fights are just meant to get Manny money and for the player to kind of chillax. So the player will need to take down several of D-Mob's crew before they ultimately face off with him in the end. So based off the plot, it seems that the player at some point lost. They might have gone to Def Jam and lost and retired from the scene. Kind of like the John Wick, because at certain points they're like, you back? I don't think the writing was that great to establish that. You have to do mental gymnastics to understand for sure. It's not really a game where you care about the story that much. Manny wants the player to fight, get warmed up, basically get reacclimated to this. This is also for the player to get used to the fighting. Manny works on getting the player a feature bout and they continue on. The first level of the ladder will consist of 4 fights. The player can fight them in any order, and these fights also serve to build up the player, but also the stats. Each time you finish a fight, you have the option of using money that's earned to increase the stats of the player. Survival mode is a way that you can earn stats early on, all for the purpose of leveling up your characters to max. Similar to the first 3 fights that was done, these fights won't be difficult. After the first fight, player gets a text from their ex, Angel. Her texting the player implies that she's interested. It's not implied why they broke up, though she might have just left him. Her text seemed to also imply she didn't willingly leave the player. Maybe she was threatened. The second fight took a while, over 6 minutes. Every couple fights, a girl shoots their shot at the player. The player has the option of picking the current girl or the new girl. Whoever they pick, you have to fight as them, and when you win, you earn pictures. There will be an option to also pay for pictures, but there's going to be another section where you can't just pay. Essentially, pick the girl maybe like 2-3 times in order to get all their pictures unlocked in the gallery. Playing the story mode constantly and picking the 4 different people to get that done. I will admit though, it's not too thrilling playing as women in these types of games because they oftentimes are on the weaker side. After the 3rd fight, Manny reveals he took out alone. It was from D-Mob, which is revealed shortly. And after the 4th fight, the player will fight against Nori. The player by this point will gain their 2nd outfit, and once again, the player is said to be retired, which further proves he was once a fighter in Def Jam. He probably got to the end and he lost. Angel looks like she's being forced to be with D-Mob, but it's never established why.
It's quick.
Stop it! Forget about him, baby. He means nothing to me.
After a near tragedy as D-Mob got jealous and almost took out the player, the fight with Nori commences. This fight by far the fastest fight I had. It was so fast I just thought it was a joke. Isn't this supposed to be like a boss? And he got taken down relatively fast. Manny contacts the player. He has to pay D-Mob back more money thanks to interest. My least favorite part of the story is the forced tag teams. Manny will be put on the team with the player and they'll compete in a team tournament, which at certain points after fights you'll be forced to do these fights. The player essentially won't be the one that you're controlling at first. You'll control Manny and you have the option to swap out. In the earlier parts when you're building up your stats, this isn't bad, but later on when you have better stats, having Manny in the control helm is annoying. This first tag fight will take a while for me. It took almost 10 minutes just to complete. Essentially, the fight will always start with Manny. The controls, while not bad, it's the camera that goes out a bit more because it has to compensate with more players on the screen, and there was just a lot going on. At one point, if you try to pin or submit, they come in the ring, but they don't leave the ring. They just stay there for the longest. I didn't know how to switch target. I know it's one of those, oh, you're just complaining because you didn't know the controls. Well, fuck you. I now know the controls as of this video. It got better later, but at this current moment, oh, I was furious. The player will have another ladder to complete. The first of them is nothing challenging. Angel texts the player once more, proving she still cares, but claims that things are different. Now, in my worldview, if your ex continuously reaches out to you and texts you saying like mean stuff, but she initiated the text after y'all haven't talked in a while, girls still care about you. It's either that or she just weird. After this fight, Manny will text the player regarding the second fight in the tag tournament. Once I got the hang of the tag system, the fight didn't take too long, roughly 4 minutes. Only 2 fights remain in the tag team, thank goodness. The player will have 2 more fights before he can take on Def Jam South's champion. The champion turns out to be Ludacris. Ludacris is talking reckless, and even Angel texts the player regarding it. Obviously, the player has been texting Angel. She wishes him good luck and sends a smiley face. Before the fight, the girlfriend the player currently has will be taken by another girl, basically saying, bump these dudes, let's go find some real dudes. I think it was just the writer's way of writing out the girlfriend for the player to get the ex back. The fight with Ludacris isn't too hard. However, the fight shows a growing problem. The computer is getting better and better at reversals. Mind you, the setting for difficulty is at easy, and they're going reckless with these reversals. It's gonna get bad. So after this fight, D-Mob will officially announce the Def Jam tournament. He'll be the final opponent.
So y'all think that was a fight? That was no fight, and those two ain't shit. If you want to see real fighters, there's only one place to be. Yeah, I'm talking about Def Jam! This year's event will feature something special for all you up-and-comers. Me. Don't think I ain't heard y'all talking. He's too old, you say. Too slow. You think you can take me? Now's your chance to prove it. You want the money? You want the respect? You gotta beat me. But nobody ever beats me.
But to qualify, the player has to beat DMX. But before the player can fight him, he has to prove himself. This will consist of 3 fights. The computer is starting to get harder, but the fights are still easy. In the middle of this, we have the semifinals for the tag team tournament. This fight takes longer than the last 2 tag teams. One thing that sucks about the tags are the lack of a real ref. While I know in wrestling games when you try to pin or whatnot, you can come in and interrupt it, afterwards, nothing is keeping these people from going back to their corners. I believe in wrestling, if you try to do that, bro, you get like auto forced to just go back to the corner, and then only when they do certain things can you interrupt. Angel texts the player once more. She congratulates the player and comments on him losing his girlfriends, but make sure to comment that makes him available. She then quickly shoots that down by saying that she's playing. If it's found out that she's still texting the player, D-Mob would probably kill her. I don't think it's been a one-off text. I think they've been texting heavy through the course of the events that unfold in the game. After the next fight, she follows up with that she's worried about Manny. Seems like Manny might be in danger. In the third fight, I went for the submission. More so, the fight dragged on a bit. When you go into the blazing state and you use your finisher early on, it could take a while to rebuild that crap up. So if you're fighting against a more tougher opponent and you accidentally use blazing, yeah, sure, the health will go down. We're still talking about having to rebuild up that while getting them low enough so you can KO them or pin them. But I wanted to go for the submission to see how realistically it would take, how long it would realistically take, and it took a while. So after this fight, Method Man texts the player in reference to the finals to the tag team tournament. The last of the tournament fight has you fighting against Redman and Method Man, 2 people that come from D-Mob's crew. Manny, after the fight, warns the player to not enter Def Jam. Just don't do it, because bad news. news, but again, from a writer's standpoint, why? What happened the previous one? Angel texts the player saying that she sent over a new outfit. This is the third and final outfit. All the original characters will have 3 outfits.
Time to go home!
This is where the difficulty got to a new level. I'm now constantly dealing with reversals. After a failed few attempts at KOing him, I had to go for the submission. In the previous scene, D-Mob and Angel left after D-Mob caught the player looking at Angel. So out the blue, Angel texts the player later that she wants to meet at the Face Club, but it turns out to be a trap.
Angel's not gonna make it.
D-Mob sent us instead.
He'd like you to drop out of Def Jam.
We're here to make sure that happens.
Now mind you, she said earlier if D-Mob found out that we were still texting, he would kill us. Why would you want to go meet up with her in person? At this point in the game, things get hard, so the player has to fight 3 of D-Mob's crew at the same time. D-Mob is scared essentially, because why else would you send somebody to take care of the ex of the girl that you're talking to, unless you're scared and she's not really your girl and you're just forcing her to be there. But the writing never establishes that. But he sends House, Snowman, and Pockets to handle the player. The biggest issue with this fight is that they can tag team the player, cause major damage, and this is the only handicap match in the story. You probably didn't know that was even a thing, but yes, there is a 3v1 setting for the versus mode. You could play that particular setup of a fight, and this is the first and only time it will appear in this story. The game doesn't teach you how to switch opponents, so I was sitting there looking stupid every time I was trying to target someone. I'm like, why are they not auto targeting? It took me almost an hour, no exaggeration. I kept restarting, kept getting irritated, only to then find out you only have to beat one of the opponents. If you KO just one of them, the whole fight is finished. Had I known this, I would have changed the way I was going about this fight. The best person to just go after is Pockets. He's the weaker of the bunch and he'll go down fairly fast. You just have to avoid getting hit by the other 2. After the player fends himself off, he's attacked by Manny with a bat.
Out of here! D-Mob called him my mark. He owns me, man.
Turns out Manny gave D-Mob his mark and he owes him. Or rather, he got something from D-Mob and D-Mob basically can call him in at any moment. Kind of similar to John Wick and how the dude got John Wick in the second movie. What I find hilarious about this though is Manny didn't really try to warn the player. He did say don't go to Def Jam, but he never said, yo Manny, I know you basically helping me so I don't die, but yeah, D-Mob doesn't want you. Or maybe he knows the player, but again, all of this would have made a bit more sense if the writer was just slightly more on point. Despite the betrayal, it turns out Manny spared the player, likely because he was told to KO the player and make sure he doesn't come to Def Jam tournament. Maybe D-Mob was scared. The player shows up at Def Jam tournament because they qualified after beating DMX, and now it's time for a series of fights. So the player has the first fight against Keith Murray. By this stage in the game, reversals are very frequent from the computer. Whether you're striking, you're grappling, you're trying to put them in submissions, you're just going to get reversals very often. So either I would improve or should have improved on this. You're gonna definitely rage. This game makes you rage bait. The next fight will be against Capone. He's dealt with via pinning, and now it's WC's time. The easiest fight by far. I'm not even gonna cap. WC, waste of time. The semifinals pits the player against Ghostface. Fight goes on for quite a while, and at some point I was sure he was going to win. Eventually I pulled through, I secured the win. The finals.
Last time, I took your precious little bitch and made her mine. Now there's nothing left to take. So I'm just going to kill you.
Go to hell, D-Mob! I am not yours to own.
Okay, I'll kill you both then.
So it turns out D-Mob fought against the player and he took the player's girl. By far, D-Mob is the king of reversals. It sounds crazy. There are going to be some cases where everything's cool, but for the most part, he's annoying to fight. He's the final boss, so it's okay, I guess. But at the same time, I put this game on easy, so it shouldn't be this frustrating. It was so hard, pause to the extreme, I got a game over. I lost, he beat me. I had to do a second attempt. And the second attempt, I honestly just played the game of keep away, ran away from him at certain points, and I made sure to be a little more strategic with my actions. Eventually, I got D-Mob down to critical, and after a long fight, I was only finally then able to KO him. In the ending scene, we see the player and Angel walk out. We see the cops have come to arrest D-Mob. Manny shockingly survives the shot. It's not even serious enough to where they had to rush him to the hospital, so maybe just D-Mob sucks with guns. So the player gets the girl back. Manny gets out of owing D-Mob money, and D-Mob goes to jail. Yay, everything is great. In actuality, what the fuck was this story? The character comes back into this world because Manny asked him to. To put it lightly, Def Jam Vendetta's story mode is very bare bones. It's simple, it's nothing special to it. It's not gonna win awards, heck, it's not even going to be praised. I think it's cool seeing iconic rappers inside of the game. They, I believe most, if not all of them, recorded their own voice lines. That's cool and all, but quite frankly, the story is garbage. By July of 2006, Def Jam Vendetta sold over 750K. It's uncertain how much more the game sold. As of today, Def Jam Vendetta would end up getting a sequel that would continue this story, and based upon what I've read of the premise, it's bad. Def Jam has other game modes, so let's talk more about those. Def Jam Vendetta is rather limited in game modes. The first of 3 was story. Story mode can be completed 3 additional times for 100 completion. The second game mode is versus mode. There are 4 types of matches the player can commence in: 1v1, 2v2s, free-for-all, and handicap matches. Free-for-all can be tedious as the computer is not going to be strong enough or rather competent enough to defeat 1 or 2 of the enemies while you focus on one, but based off of what I experience, the computer will fight amongst themselves while you fight against another computer. When you take that person down, you can either wait for them to beat the person or you can go in and KO another person. Essentially, you're gonna have to defeat all 3 enemies to win, versus if you were playing with, say, 3 other people, then it probably would be a bit more chaotic. Maybe your friend might say, hey, that person's getting beat, I'm gonna help them, or maybe your friend is good enough and they could take down the other friend. Free-for-all isn't going to be a fun game to play by yourself. So if you're really gonna play this, you're either gonna play with someone else. Maybe there's tournaments and stuff run for this game, I doubt it, but you either do 1v1 or you would do tag team, but 1v1 for sure. I don't think this is one of those games that you could realistically play by yourself, because after a certain point, you're just gonna be sitting there saying, wow, this is something else. The other game mode in Def Jam Vendetta is survival. Survival is what it sounds like. Match after match after match. If you need extra cash to level up the original characters and story, this is a good way to get more cash for stats. However, if the player finishes the story with the character, they won't be able to go back and max level their stats unless they create a new profile and redo the story. So each time you defeat an enemy, the difficulty will increase in survival. If health is drained, only 25% will be recovered. So if you get your ass beat in one match, then you're not going to get much back in the next match. Overall, I think the game modes are okay. One cool thing would have been if they had variety of the game modes. Maybe they did their own twist on some of the traditional game modes in wrestling matches, maybe like a belt match, maybe like a cage match, as well as unique instances in the story mode. Def Jam, like many games in the early 2000s, had cheat codes. You can unlock stuff, and essentially if you don't want to be bothered to play this game, you can essentially just unlock everything, including the alt costumes for the characters, play it for a bit, and go about your day. For its first game, I do think Def Jam Vendetta did a good job of taking what was and maybe still is a popular genre. I know wrestling is still popular, but the video games have been lacking. The lack of variety in this game makes the game a hard sell unless you have friends to play with, or you just so happen to love the iconic rappers, like maybe you missed the late DMX and maybe you want to play a game that he was in. If that's what you're after, then by all means, definitely pick this game up. Def Jam Vendetta is a game that's fun, thrilling, and it's familiar, yet the game becomes repetitive fast, and the biggest issue outside of gameplay is the lack of unique game modes. No matter the mode, you play the same way all the time, and after a while, it will get boring. Its sequel game does address some of these issues, and I mostly wanted to replay this game to see if I would still enjoy it 20 years later, and despite all the issues and things I mentioned, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Even after this video, I'll probably play it a couple more times. What do you guys think? What other games would you like to see me play and do a retrospective on? Give me your thoughts in the comment section. I am Kai. What, yo? And I'll catch you guys in the next video.